In this session, what we will do is we will leave the OWD for lead as public read only, and then we will test as a test user to see what kind of access the test user will have. So I'm going to navigate to our Salesforce org to set up. From there, we'll go to sharing settings. Sharing settings. And then check the OWD for lead. Currently, it is set to public read write. That means other users can read and edit lead records that belong to other users. So for example, if on this screen, I'm logged in as test user and I can access leads. And even though this link belongs to the admin user or another user, I can still go in and edit it. So what we want to do is we want to remove that access. We don't want users to be editing each other's records. They can see them, but they're not supposed to edit those records. For that, what we will do is we will go to this OWD setting for lead, and we will change it from public read write to public read only. Okay, the write public read write means edit. You could also understand that as public read edit. So we're changing it from public read write to public read only. And then we're going to save this. Salesforce will take some time to calculate that sharing setting. And once that is done, users will only be able to see each other's records. So they will not be able to edit records belonging to other users, but they will only be able to see them. But the important thing here to note is that the user will still be able to edit their own records, okay? As you know, OWD is there to configure what kind of access users can have to the records that belong to other users. So it's now set to public read only. So if I go to my test user account and do a refresh here, then we should not be able to delete records that belong to other users. So in this list view, all of these records belong to the admin users. If I try to edit any one of them, I'll be getting an error. So let me update that value and then save, and this is the error message I get. You don't have the necessary privilege to edit this record. Okay, I'm going to cancel out. But don't forget that this user still have access to create their own lead records and also edit their own lead records. Okay. So for example, let's create this sample lead as a test user. We have this checkbox that we must check. Click save. So this record belongs to the test user himself, and the test user would be able to edit this record because that's his own record, but he cannot edit records that belong to other users. So that's what public read only means. So in the next scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to switch to private, and we will see what happens. Going back to this sharing setting, we will click on edit, and then from public read only, we'll switch that to private, click OK, and then save this. So private means the other users in generally will not be able to see each other's records at all. They will only be able to see their own records, not records that belong to other users. Let's do a refresh here. And once that configuration is set up, we'll go and check it. So here lead is set to private. And on this screen, I'm logged in as a test user. So if as you can see previously, if I click on leads, in this list view, I'm only seeing the lead record that belongs to the test user. If I switch to all open leads, now still the user is only able to see the record that belongs to himself, not to the admin user anymore. See, those records that belong to admin user are gone from this list because of a private setting on OWD. Again, the user can still create records, can still update them, but they cannot see records, lead records actually, that belong to other users. So that's how it works when we set it to private. All right. So what does OWD, which stands for org-wide sharing, defaults do? It controls what we can do with others' records, not our own records. Just if you remember, even when I set that OWD to lead to private, the test user can still, or other users can still create their own records and edit their own records, but they cannot do that to other users' record. So for OWD rules to work, users must have necessary profile level access to the required object. For example, in this scenario, if we remove the test user's access to the lead object on their profile or permission set, then they won't be able to do anything with lead records. So we have to first make sure that the user has the necessary profile level access to the required object. OWD settings do not grant more access than the object access granted in the user's profile. So for example, if you give read-only access on the user's profile, then the test user will only be able to read. The test user will not be able to edit users' access, records belonging to other users. So we always have to make sure the profile has the required access. Org-wide sharing settings can be set separately for custom objects and many standard objects. Okay, we can apply that to standard objects as well as custom objects in Salesforce. For most objects, org-wide sharing settings can be set to private, public read-only, or public read-write. But as you can see from here, for leads and as well as cases, for example, you can set to public read-write transfer. This option, the transfer option, is available only for a few objects. When a custom object is on the detail side of a master detail relationship with a standard object, its org-wide default is set to controlled by parent. So for example, we have objects that have master detail relationship here. For example, student and car is a good example. We have those custom objects, student and car. Student is the parent object and car is the child object, and car and student have master detail relationships. So pay attention to the car object. It says for OWD, it says it's controlled by the parent, okay, which is the student object. If the default access for account is set to private, the default access for opportunity and case must be set to private as well. The default access for contact must be set to private or controlled by parent. This is special type of setting. For example, if you go to account and try to change that OWD to private, and it will give you a message saying that opportunity access must be set to private when account access is set to private. If you click OK, then it says case must be private when account access is set to private. Then it says when the case sharing mode is private, each case queue must have at least one member. If you are using case queues, please confirm in case setup that each queue has a member. So don't worry about what is case queue. We'll cover those topics in the future, but just know that when you change the OWD for account, it will also change it for the other objects. from this bullet points, I want to highlight this bullet point that says OWD setting do not grant more access than the object access granted in the user's profile. So in this session, we have configured the OWD for lead, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that OWD for lead to public read write. And what I will do at the same time is from the user's profile, I will remove the edit access. Okay, so while this is being saved, let me go to profile. Okay, or actually let's go to our users. From there, I will access the user's profile. Here is the test user that we're doing for demo purposes. I'm going to access the profile. And then on that profile, I will remove some access. Object settings. And then we will click on, or actually navigate to lead object. We have to find lead here. And then we'll click on that. And waiting until it loads. Okay, click on edit. And so I will then remove the edit access. Okay. And before I save it, let me test this. Okay. Let me do a refresh here. Now OWD got updated. This test user has access to records belonging to the admin user. Okay. Now, if I click on this sample record, you will see that the test user has the option to edit this record, right, and save it. That's because we set that OWD to public read write, correct? And then on the profile, I have just removed the edit access, and then I'm going to save it. Okay. So we will see what this is going to do to the user's access. So let's go to the test user profile and do a refresh here. So, and then we'll go to lead records, recently viewed, and all open leads. The user can still see all these records, right? And then if I try to update one lead record, let me update this one to phone and then click save, then I get this error message. That is because even though the OWD for lead is set to public read write, as we can see from here, let's go to sharing settings and view that. And as you can see, the OWD is set to public read write because on the user's profile, the edit option is removed. That's why the user will not be able to edit records. So first, what we have to do is we have to give the necessary access on the profile or on their permission set if they're using permission set for it. When you remove the edit access on their profile, the test user will not be edit their own records either. Okay. So if I pick this record that belongs to the test user himself, and try to update this, and the user will still be getting this error. So profile control access to the records that you own or other users own, but OWD controls your access or what you can do with records that belong to other users. Okay, so going back to my admin profile here, and I will give the edit access back. That means the user has or can now edit records, edit lead records. Okay, it means user can now edit lead records. And since OWD is set to public read write, it means They can edit their own records, and they can also edit lead records that belong to other users. So just know the difference of what we control from the profile versus what we control from the OWD settings.